Peter Mair's Ruling the Void, The Hollowing of Western Democracy, is a profound critique of the state of modern democracy, particularly in Western nations. Published posthumously in 2013, the book examines the growing detachment between political elites and the citizens they are supposed to represent. Mair's work stands as a warning about the dangers of democratic decay as political systems become increasingly unresponsive to the public while maintaining the appearance of democracy. Below is a detailed exploration of the book's central arguments, themes, and implications. At the heart of Mair's thesis is the idea of the hollowing out of democracy. He argues that political parties, once the primary vehicles of popular representation and engagement, have gradually abandoned their roles as intermediaries between the state and society. Historically, parties served two crucial functions. They represented citizens' interests and channeled their demands into policy-making processes. However, over time, these functions have diminished, leaving a void in democratic systems. This void, Mair asserts, is characterized by a shift in the role of political parties. Rather than representing the people, parties have become more focused on governance and administration, prioritizing technocratic efficiency over ideological debates or public engagement. This shift has eroded trust in political institutions and widened the gap between citizens and elites. The decline of mass politics. Mair explores the decline of mass participation in politics as a central factor in the hollowing of democracy. In the mid-20th century, political parties were deeply embedded in society, with strong ties to social movements, trade unions, and other grassroots organizations. Membership in political parties was high, and citizens felt a sense of connection and influence over political outcomes. However, since the late 20th century, this dynamic has changed dramatically. Party memberships have plummeted, and electoral turnout has declined across many Western democracies. Mair attributes this decline to several factors, including the professionalization of politics, the rise of neoliberalism, and the weakening of traditional class and religious identities that once anchored political loyalties. This decline in mass politics has led to what Mair describes as the withdrawal of the people. Citizens have become increasingly disengaged from formal political processes, opting instead for alternative forms of activism or apathy. The result is a crisis of legitimacy, as political systems struggle to maintain their democratic credentials in the face of widespread disillusionment. The rise of technocracy. One of Mair's key arguments is that the hollowing out of democracy has been accompanied by the rise of technocracy. As political parties have retreated from their representative functions, decision-making has become concentrated in the hands of unelected experts, bureaucrats, and international institutions. These technocratic bodies often operate beyond the reach of democratic accountability, prioritizing efficiency and expertise over public input. Mair points to the European Union as a prime example of this trend. The EU's complex institutional structure, reliance on technocratic decision-making, and limited mechanisms for citizen participation make it a case study in the erosion of democratic control. While the EU provides stability and economic benefits, it also exemplifies the tensions between governance and democracy, as citizens feel increasingly alienated from decisions that affect their lives. The politicization of governance. Paradoxically, as parties have become less representative, they have also become more dominant in governance. Mair describes how parties have transformed into state parties that focus on maintaining control of government institutions rather than representing societal interests. This trend has led to the politicization of governance, as parties prioritize their own survival and electoral success over the broader public good. In this context, political competition has become increasingly superficial, with parties offering similar policy platforms and avoiding controversial issues. The result is a narrowing of political choice, as voters are left with few meaningful alternatives. Mair argues that this convergence of party platforms reflects a broader depoliticization of politics, where ideological debates are sidelined in favor of consensus-driven policymaking. Populism and the reaction to the void. Mair also examines the rise of populism as a reaction to the hollowing out of democracy. Populist movements, he argues, thrive on the sense of disconnection and disillusionment that many citizens feel toward traditional political parties and institutions. By presenting themselves as the voice of the people against corrupt elites, populists seek to fill the void left by the decline of representative politics. However, Mair warns that populism is not a solution to the crisis of democracy. While it may temporarily mobilize disaffected citizens, populist movements often lack the institutional structures and long-term vision needed to sustain democratic engagement. Instead, they risk further destabilizing political systems by undermining trust in established institutions and norms. The implications for democracy. The implications of Mair's analysis are profound. He suggests that the hollowing out of democracy represents a fundamental challenge to the legitimacy of Western political systems. As citizens disengage and elites prioritize governance over representation, the foundations of democracy are increasingly undermined. Mair's work also raises important questions about the future of democracy. Can political systems adapt to the changing dynamics of representation and participation? What role should political parties play in a world where traditional forms of engagement are in decline? And how can democratic institutions regain the trust and support of citizens in an era of growing disillusionment? Critiques and contributions. While Mair's analysis is compelling, it has also been subject to critique. Some scholars argue that his focus on the decline of parties and mass politics overlooks the emergence of new forms of political participation, such as social movements, digital activism, and grassroots organizing. These alternative forms of engagement suggest that democracy may be evolving rather than simply declining. Others have questioned Mair's pessimism about the rise of technocracy. While technocratic governance may reduce direct citizen involvement, it can also enhance stability and effectiveness in policymaking. Balancing democratic accountability with technocratic expertise remains a central challenge for modern political systems. Despite these critiques, Ruling the Void remains a seminal work in political science. Mair's insights into the hollowing out of democracy have resonated widely, influencing debates about the future of representative politics and the challenges facing Western democracies. Relevance in the modern context. Since the publication of Ruling the Void, many of Mair's observations have become even more relevant. The rise of populist leaders, the fragmentation of party systems, and the persistence of voter disillusionment all reflect the trends he identified. The COVID-19 pandemic further highlighted the tensions between technocratic governance and democratic accountability, as governments relied on experts to navigate complex crises while facing public backlash against perceived overreach. Mair's analysis also speaks to the challenges of globalization and transnational governance. As issues like climate change, migration, and economic inequality increasingly require international cooperation, the tension between local democracy and global governance is likely to intensify. Peter Mair's Ruling the Void is a powerful and thought-provoking critique of the state of modern democracy. By highlighting the hollowing out of democratic systems, the decline of mass politics, and the rise of technocracy, Mair provides a sobering assessment of the challenges facing Western democracies. His work serves as both a warning and a call to action, urging political leaders, scholars, and citizens to confront the crisis of representation and restore the democratic values that underpin our political systems. While Mair's analysis is undoubtedly pessimistic, it also offers valuable insights into the dynamics of democracy and the need for innovation in political engagement. By addressing the void at the heart of our political systems, we can begin to rebuild trust, participation, and legitimacy in democratic governance.